The original dash was not only getting dated, but the plastic had become brittle and had a lot of stress cracks. There are some major breaks in the bends, and the switches and fuses were actually falling out of the dash. Vibrations had caused many stress cracks around the gauges. Some were loose, and I hesitated tightening them anymore as it would cause more damage. The tachometer in the middle with the black bezel is for the 25 horsepower Yamaha auxiliary motor. Originally I had considered keeping it and reinstalling it in the new dash, but after seeing how clean the dash was turning out, I decided it wasn't necessary and eliminated it. I replaced the trim tilt switch and the Bennett trim tabs joystick with Carling switches and moved them to the switch row. I now have two separate switches for the trim tabs, port and starboard. What a mess. There were live wires and unused wires just hanging under the dash. Over the years, as electronic gear was added and removed, oftentimes the wires were just clipped off and abandoned. There were unfused circuits here. We were lucky we didn't have a fire. As I understand it, the prior owners had a plethora of equipment on this boat. There was an autopilot, many different depth finders and radios. All of these had been removed before we bought the boat 3 years ago. I took some pictures of the existing wires, but as it turned out, these weren't necessary as everything was replaced. I didn't realize the camera was so far off center. Rookie error. I am learning how to use the video effectively. I removed the screws attaching the dash, and after a little work untangling wires, I managed to lift it clear with most of the wiring attached and intact. I measured all the dimensions, cutout locations, and size of cutouts. I wrote these figures on the backing, and I took pictures of these measurements for future reference. Look at this rat's nest of wire. Thompson used to have real nice wiring, but must have hired someone that didn't have much pride in their work. It's the little things that make a difference, and this type of poor workmanship probably contributed to their downfall and bankruptcy. I stripped out the wiring harness so as to identify each wire's function. Some were for the gauges and others for switches. I made notes on the back side of the switches and gauges so I didn't have to keep turning the panel over to see what switch or gauge I was working with. sketched out each connector and identified the pinouts on each. Later I drew these out on the CAD. These notes will become indispensable later when wiring up the switches. This is the first version of the panel layout. This is a circuit breaker layout. This is the wiring diagram I started with, but there were a few changes made on the fly. This is a cutout drawing for the original panel. These are the connectors with their pinouts and functions identified. I bent the panel on a fairly cheap brake bought at Harbor Freight. It actually did a good job. Unfortunately, I somehow lost the video showing the bending process. The CAD drawing was to scale, so it was a simple process to tape the drawing in the proper location and center punch and drill each mounting hole. Again, the step drill with tape markers showing proper depth made the job much easier. I repeated the process on the 12-volt and USB power jacks. The holes were quite rough and needed a little cleanup. For this I used a 45-degree countersink to deburr both sides of the hole. I think the small step drill was an Irwin, and it was pretty pricey, but it worked well. It cut fairly clean and never hung up. However, I can't say the same for the large one I used for the power jacks. It was a third the cost of the Irwin and one of Harbor Freight's finest. It ripped its way through the aluminum and constantly hung up and snagged the metal. I guess you get what you pay for. In hindsight, I should have used a hole saw. I used a 1/4 round file to clean up the holes. Once again, sorry for the bad camera angle. Every now and then you need to stop and clean up your work area. put the power jacks in and test fit the breakers again. Still the camera angle is all wrong. Next year I'm going to get another good camera. That way if one is screwed up, the other gets a shot. Little tap here and there to straighten up the holes. Checking fit and layout and revising positions. On a project like this, something always needs a little nudge or addition along the way. For the guide holes for a panel punch, I had a local machine shop make. It seemed like a market is being neglected, as everyone selling switches sells rectangular switches, but nobody makes the punch for cutting out the holes. Go figure. Out the locations for the mounting screw holes and used a pneumatic panel punch for even and uniform holes around the perimeter of the panel. The corner radius was just a freehand cut using tin snips. I used the pattern that came from Simrad to lay out the openings for the Go 7s. I center punched each location right through the pattern, then moved to the other side and repeated the action, same as the port side. After center punching the holes, I drilled each hole roughly to the size indicated on the pattern. By this time I had already cut and fit the starboard unit. Here I'm using small nails to align the pattern and check hole accuracy before cutting out the center. Using a light from underneath, I confirmed each pilot hole size and position. Using a panel nibbler, I roughed out the main openings. After each cut or trim, I checked the fit before removing too much metal. Patience is a must while doing this. making more cuts but still on the inside of the lines. Checking the fitment, trimming a little more, and checking alignment with the other unit. You know when you're getting close when you're down to using a file to clean up the edges. Cut and trim, check fitment. Cut and trim, check fitment. Wash, rinse, repeat. Here, a sharp eye will notice that I'm marking mounting holes while the panel is crooked. Brilliant move. After a little bit, I figured it out and made it straight. I removed all the incorrect marks, repositioned the panel to the proper location, and remarked the pilot holes. I drilled the pilot holes, then beveled each hole through the gel coat as it was tending to crack. I used a 2.5-inch hole saw from inside the cabin to drill the helm station hole. This assured a perfect fit. I installed the breakers and power jacks again. Aligning the line terminals and load terminals on the breakers. The finished job, what do you think? I roughed in some of the power leads without the switches. At this time I was still waiting for the switch punch. I used PVC wire and crimp heat shrink terminal ends. I found that a phone charging cable makes a good pattern maker. Slip the USB end over the terminal tab and route to the switch. Mark the cable and cut a piece of wire to that length. Add the terminals and the run is done. Here is a before and after of the heat shrink. The crimp is real sturdy, but add the heat shrink and the termination is almost indestructible. Here are the piggyback jumpers I use when more than one wire per terminal is required. I could have used a 10-12 gauge spade receptacle, but this way I can afford the opportunity to just remove one wire if so desired in the future. I removed all the add-on wires from under the gunnels. I left the control cables for both motors, the main engine and the 25 horsepower Yamaha. Also the main wiring harness because it branched up to the hardtop. Also the Yamaha harness was left in place. I removed all of the original tie wrap hangers and replaced them with heavier duty and reusable tie wrap hangers. Now to add a wire to the harness, just loosen each and feed the cable of wire through. No more just adding them with another tie wrap. I must have cut 100 of them out from removal. These views are laying on the floor and looking upwards. I used some surplus sign vinyl and cut a few different patterns for the switch layout. Even though I had already marked where I was originally going to place the switches, I found a few more inches and stretched out the pattern as much as I could and still encompass the previously punched holes. Since the panel punch wasn't forthcoming, I bought some angle iron at Lowe's and clamped two together, top and bottom, and used an oscillating cutter tool and chisel to cut the holes. Some turned out perfect, and a few looked like a real hack job. The tool had a tendency to jump all over and was difficult to control. Oh well, that's what they make touch-up paint for. I started with the installation of the NMEA 2000 data network and power feeds to the breakers. I used self-resetting 40 amps for the main feed and some of the accessory power feed. These are both fused at the feed end near the engine. I started the wiring next. I took each wire from the connectors and stapled them to a 3-foot piece of 2x4 and carefully powered each to make sure that it had their identities correct, then routed each one to the proper switch. Obviously I didn't power up the gauge sending units. They connected to the RS11 data interface. I put all of the wires into groups and zip ties, but I wasn't anal about the neatness. More interested in full functionality and long life. Here's a quick recap of before and after pictures. I still need to install one switch and touch up the scratches I made while cutting out the switch mounting holes. The white cable connected to the RS-11 is for programming that I will complete when we launch in the next spring. I'm going to build a small knee pad to run across the bottom of the panel to cover the abandoned holes. I have two useless gauges in the cluster. One says load and the other says economy. Simrad only has about 5 different configurations for the Go 7s, but they are all fully configurable in the larger sizes. I added another dome light while reassembling the cabin interior. I think it looks great from 20 feet. I hope nobody tries to put a cigarette lighter into that jack. I think the plastic will melt. I plan to cut some nice teak and install a drink holder where the compass used to reside. Thanks for watching my video. Please subscribe and leave a comment, even if negative. They don't cost you anything, and they're sure to help my channel.